What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to another Warframe video. So, we got the new Lich weapons on all platforms, the TENET GLAXION and the Kuva Sobek. And I can safely say the TENET GLAXION is really, really good. Like, honestly, maybe a new top 10 primary in all of Warframe. So we're going to go over a build today, what elements are best, and why. Got a lot of questions on that yesterday. And yeah, just showcasing how ridiculously strong this thing is against high-level enemies. Now, I haven't done a very, like a level 10,000 run with this yet, but I am planning on doing that in the near future. So keep an eye out on the live stream channel for when I'm doing a level 10,000 Glaxion, Cascade, or Disruption, or something like that. But we're going to be showing at level 200 enemies today, because that's more normal for most normal players. But before we get into this stuff, make sure you sub this channel. We do daily Warframe video uploads. Thanks for all the support on the live streams and on the videos recently, guys. It really means a lot. And I will continue making these videos, obviously, because I enjoy making these videos and I enjoy playing Warframe still. So let's go right into it. Alright, so as far as the best element on the TENET GLAXION, actually, let's just first show how the TENET GLAXION works. So, this thing is a chaining ice gun. And I believe right now I have no mods on it, but not entirely sure about that. So it chains to 4 enemies at base. So we can just go ahead and show the chaining in action up here. So I fire at this guy. As you can see, it's hitting 3 other enemies. So 4 enemies total. Now, here's the key to using this thing for even more AoE. We've got the mod called Prime Shred on here. And with Prime Shred, the punch through is going to make it where you have more chains. So you can hit 8 enemies with the Prime Shred mod. So starting off with that, mod this thing for punch through if you can. If you're getting a Riven, you might want to consider getting Punch Through, because that will help you, not have to run Prime Shred and get all that chaining. Additionally, this chaining goes through terrain and walls. So you can shoot the TENET GLAXION at an enemy, and it will chain through the wall to another enemy that's 10 meters away. I think it's about 10 meters chaining range with the TENET GLAXION. That being said, this thing has base cold, and if you're getting a TENET Lich, it's going to have another base element. So let's explain why magnetic is the best element for the TENET GLAXION. I've got a 60% magnetic one. Against my better judgment, we farmed this out yesterday. It was a lot of farming. We also got 60% TENET or Kuva Sobek as well, but this thing is honestly just a lot better than the Kuva Sobek, so we're going to go over this first. Alright, so 60% magnetic. Why is that? Well, let's start off with the fact that it has base cold, and then just throwing magnetic on there means that it's not going to combine anything that you don't want. If you had a toxin TENET GLAXION, which I'm going to show you the example of the Envoy. This is a great example right here. So since I have a Toxin Envoy, the Envoy's rocket has cold damage built in. So unless you want to go for only viral with no other mods, no other elemental mods, and that's basically it, do not get a Toxin TENET GLAXION. It's not the end of the world if you do it, but it's not going to really save you any mod slots. And I'm going to show you here right now. So Corrosive Cold build is going to be the best way to run this thing. But look at what we have right here. So we have the Toxin TENET Envoy. Look what's happening though. You'd think oh, I'll just put on an electric mod, we'll get Corrosive Cold. Sadly, no. The Lich progenitor bonus is applied at the end. It's very annoying. So it's basically the most annoying way they can apply this. So if you want to get a Corrosive Cold build on a weapon that has a Toxin progenitor, you need to actually put on a Toxin mod. It's so sad. But yeah, you need to actually have a Toxin mod and a electric mod to get Corrosive Cold with a Toxin progenitor. That's why run Magnetic. Magnetic will give you an extra proc for Galvanized Condition Overload. And additionally, if you wanted to mod for Radiation for some reason, there's already a Radiation mod in this game that was added in the Whispers in the Wall update called Radiated Reload. So if you want to get a bunch of procs, you can throw on Radiated Reload and not bother with a magnetic one. Now, you technically could go an impact one as well, but I feel like since DE is going to be buffing enemy shields in the Jade Shadows update, that the magnetic one's just going to be better. And also, who really mods for magnetic? I definitely don't. So we're going to be going over what the build is here, and this is the build I'd recommend for most players. Now, don't be too bothered by the Prime Band of the Grenadier. You can just put on Amalgam Serration there, or Normal Serration for that matter, and it'll be similar performance. But yes, we have a Corrosive Cold build. If you didn't know this, the cold procs are being buffed massively in the Jade Shadows update in June. You will be able to freeze enemies solid with this, and additionally, the critical damage bonus of 50% that is from cold procs will be doubled when the enemy is fully frozen. So with this build, we can fully freeze everything, we can fully armor everything with green shards and corrosive, and also we can magnetic proc things as well for extra procs for condition overload, galvanized aptitude that is. I did test this and it does work. Now, but keep in mind though, the chaining, each enemy you chain to will have less damage than the previous one. All the way at the end, it's they're taking 20% damage. But that's okay, because this thing deals a lot of damage. And with our Prime Shred giving us punch through, we chained 8 enemies or more. Or I think usually it's just 8. I haven't seen it chained to 12 enemies, but I'm sure it could happen in some situations. So as far as rivens, like I said, you want to get a punch through riven if you can, because that's going to let you replace prime shred technically. All right, let's go over what this. I'm going to show you how this is like in mission with buffs. Corrosive Cold, very good. We're running green shards on Revenant. With 2 of these, we can fully remove enemy armor with just corrosive procs, no abilities required. And I'm going to throw on some buffs too. Let's go ahead and throw on Nourish. We're going to throw on Arcane Rage. And you will see this thing doing over 1 million damage. I've seen the highest I've seen with this thing with no Riven is like 2.8 million. Yeah, 2.8 million with a weapon that people are trying to say is bad. I know, kind of crazy to even say that, but it just shows that people just don't know exactly how things are going. Alright, so we've got the Sentinel stat stick right here, Shivering Contagion. Enemies affected by cold have a chance to spread the cold to other enemies. This will make it where you're having even more cold coverage. And yeah, it's going to be great. We got Tenacious Bond on our Sentinel for more crit damage, and we've got Arcane Rage on Revenant for more base damage. I should have kept the Bane mod on, but let's just go ahead and show it anyway without the Bane mod. Alright, so we're going to summon in these level 225 Exo Gokstads. I'm going to throw on Nourish, and we're just going to freeze them solid. Oh, they're gone. So this is how the weapon can perform with some, minimal amount of buffs. And there you go. They're just gone. They're just gone. This thing is powerful. Now, the way this is working, some people have been comparing this to the Torid Incarnon. Of course, as far as the hierarchy of weapons in Warframe, Incarnons are meant to be above Kuva weapons and Prime weapons for that matter, unless there's like a Prime Incarnon, basically. But yeah, this is meant to be weaker than the Torid, and I'd say it is weaker than the Torid, but it does have benefits over the Torid Incarnon that are pretty nice, such as not having to build on the Incarnon ammo. That's very, very convenient, if you ask me. Building Incarnon ammo is annoying, and having to keep track of the Incarnon meter is also annoying. This thing, on the other hand, it's always like this. It's always a chaining ice gun that has good stats, and there's a 1.7 million with no Riven. So yeah, I would highly recommend this thing, and again, I think that Magnetic is the best role, because if you look at a Proc Build really quick right here, this is what like a CO Proc Build would be like. Now, instead of, if we had a Radiation one or a Toxin one, this would not be as efficient, but we've got Corrosive, Magnetic, Radiation, Cold. If I want to use this as a procer, that's a good amount of procs. Not as much as like the Epitaph or like something like that, but it is technically pretty nice. Let's go ahead and show how that works, and I can throw on Viral with Nourish as always. Alright, so you just throw on Nourish. Now look at those procs. Oh, oops, look, the Procer build is killing the level 225 Steel Path enemies. Oops. So as you can see, a very powerful weapon. This is so much damage right now. But we swap to our other weapon, it's like they're all procced up for Condition Overload, and it's really easy. So good stuff there. I do highly recommend this one. Let's get some mission footage in here, because this is a new top weapon if you ask me. Now, it's definitely not entirely Nourish. If you want to go a viral build, you should still get a magnetic roll if you ask me, because there's more procs for Condition Overload, Galvanized Aptitude that is. But yeah, if you want to go for like a viral build, a viral hunter munitions, I wouldn't really recommend that on this thing. Go for maybe a different weapon for that. But you could easily do that with this element as well. As far as the mission gameplay, you're going to see that Prime Shred really putting in some work here as we shoot through walls. Rather, that was a door, technically. We shoot through doors, and we can also chain to more enemies with Prime Shred. That being said, is this weapon worth your time? Tenet Liches, or rather Tenet Sisters, are pretty annoying to farm. I can tell you that. I can attest to that after yesterday. And getting a 25 roll over and over again is really, really annoying. There's a chinning through the floor, by the way. You just saw it right there. But that, it's pretty powerful. It really is. If you want if you like beam weapons, you like chaining beam weapons. This is like multi-target, like 4 enemies on the initial beam because it chains to 3 other enemies, and then with Prime Shredder, like a punch through mod, like 8 total enemies in with 1 beam. That's pretty good. If that sounds good to you, then go for it. They're buffing cold procs in the Jade Shadows update. This thing is pretty convenient, honestly. You don't have to build Incarnon charge, like I said earlier, which is a big deal to me, and also, I use the Torid a lot. I really use the Torid a lot. Having something that's similar to the Torid, no red crits, obviously, but it's a chaining beam gun that has good chaining range, good stats. It's just fun to use. That could be another thing that's good to have in your arsenal, having multiple options. Now, I can't really say the same for the Kuva Sobek, unfortunately. I really feel like the Kuva Sobek, they dropped the ball on that one. Honestly, the Kuva Sobek didn't even need to exist, but we'll talk about that later. It could have just been a Kuva Ignis. If you would have done Fire and Ice with this update, the TENET GLAXION, the Kuva Ignis, that would have been a much, much more exciting thing, because honestly, the Kuva Sobek didn't. It's just a normal Sobek with a progenitor bonus and a little bit higher stats. The normal Sobek is better for acid shells, but we'll go over that on the video on Saturday. For the video right now, guys, I would highly recommend using this thing and getting this thing if you are someone that is, looking for some more powerful weapons for clearing out tons of enemies. It's pretty good for acolytes too, to be honest. But yeah, overall, this thing is more of a chaining beam gun for putting a proc on enemies and killing them relatively quick. Like for ad clear, amazing. And I also tried some things out. So just a quick grab bag of things I tested at the end here. Prime Firestorm does not increase the beam chain. Sinister Reach gives you about 35 meters of range on this weapon. As far as Merciless, I've got primary Frostbite on here right now for cold procs, giving you increased damage, or rather increased multi-shot crit damage. Merciless is totally fine. Like, after some testing, you don't need to have a Bane mod on this, really. If you were doing a 100 missions build, you probably want it more. Well, you can just do some Amalgam Serration. Merciless and Frostbite, similar performance level. They're both really, really good for this. And this thing has, I'd say, as far as weaknesses, one of its biggest weaknesses is the pretty bad reload speed. So that's why I was saying that maybe Merciless could help, because Merciless does give you reload speed, and there's a dead acolyte right there. So yeah, overall, those are some minor complaints, like that kind of stuff. But yeah, overall, you should really try this thing out if you are looking to try a new Lich weapon. So back in the stim really quick, like I said, I got primary Frostbite, but Merciless is also going to work pretty well too. Increased reload speed by 30%. This thing's like a 2-second reload, that's going to chop it down a good chunk. And the thing I like about primary Frostbite, though, is that it does not require kills. Now, we can just quickly show out the Riven before I call it here, because, yeah, you know what? The Rivens have such low stats that it's going to be hard to find them with slottable. I'd say if you want to find a Riven that's slottable, you have to find a way to replace a mod on your build, such as replacing Prime Shred with a Punch the Riven, or replacing a Toxin mod with whatever. So, there you go. So that's with a double crit Punch the Riven. Sadly, the Riven stats are so low that it gives you like 14% crit chance extra on the build. So, we can quickly show it with Merciless. It's going to be a very similar performance level. Sinister Reach is going to give you that beam range, which is pretty nice on a beam weapon, obviously. After casting Nourish. Now, it's going to be harder to stack it up, but once you get those kills, you're going to have that extra reload speed to fall back on, which is going to be really nice. Similar performance level, honestly, 1.7 mil. That is with my Riven, though, to keep that in mind. 1.3 mil. Alright, guys, hope you found this video fun and helpful. We'll have the Kuva Sobek video out on Saturday, Borrow video tomorrow, and thanks for all the support, guys. See you next time. Peace!